Welcome, everybody. My name is Angela Andrew, and today we're going to be talking about getting started with Mylio Photos. This webinar is geared towards people who are just starting out with our software, and my goal is to help you be successful. So today we're going to be covering several different things about Mylio Photos. So the first thing is, what is Mylio Photos? What is the software for, and what can it do for you? How to create an account and why you need one, installing and setting up, and then getting into the software and starting to have some fun with adding photos, browsing, finding your images, and then we'll go over a few resources where you can learn a bit more about our software. All right, so first things first, what is Mylio Photos? Mylio Photos gives you the opportunity to bring all of your media, all of your photos, your videos into one secure and connected library. Well, what does that look like? What does that mean? What we do is we give you a system for managing your lifetime of memories. At its core, Mylio Photos is a memory manager, and it's there to help you build your legacy and keep everything organized from all of your different sources. And it brings everything into a central library that you can then access from all of your different devices. So a lot of us have pictures that we've accumulated in various sources, probably have some drawers or photo albums full of prints. You probably have some from your older digital cameras in many different file formats scattered across folders on hard drives, memory cards. And you probably have other things that are somewhat organized, things from current cell phones. There are so many different ways that we accumulate media these days from current and past. What we aim to do at Mylio Photos is to give you a place to bring that all into one place, get it organized and accessible so you can enjoy it now and it's saved and protected for future generations. So a few things about how Mylio Photos works. It lets you view even the largest library on your laptop or phone. So when you're mobile, you're out and about, you can always get to all of your photos, which is very, very cool. You can search for your photos in many different ways. We have very advanced facial recognition. There's text recognition. It reads the GPS data that comes in from your cell phone or any other camera that you've added GPS data to. There's all sorts of text fields, so titles, captions, keywords. All of those things are searchable in Mylio Photos, and it gives you a really wide range of ways to find your photos, whatever they may be when you're looking for them. You also have the ability to access your entire library when you're offline and without the cloud. So a lot of companies' software that people might compare Mylio Photos to really rely on that cloud access. We allow you to do this where the cloud is optional. You can use the cloud, but we don't require it. We're very privacy focused, and we want to make sure you have everything on devices and storage that you control. So if one of those options is the cloud and that's what you want to use, that's great, but you certainly don't have to. And then one of the best things about Mylio Photos is it gives you a way to protect your photos from device failure or loss. So what happens if you're out on a boat and you drop your cell phone in the lake? Or that hard drive that you have at home crashes or your computer crashes? We want to make sure that all of the photos from all of these different devices are securely backed up, and Mylio Photos can help you do that. Let's go ahead and get started setting up Mylio Photos. So the first thing you'll need to do when you work with Mylio Photos is to create an account. Well, why do you need an account? It's because Mylio Photos is both an application and a service. The application is what you download to your computer, you download to your phone, and the service aspect is what allows those devices via your account to talk to each other. It creates a secure peer-to-peer connection between your different devices, allowing them to talk to each other and synchronize your photos so you can view them on any device that you have connected to your Mylio account. Let's take a quick look at how to create an account. I'm going to jump over to my web browser, and I have the mylio.com website up. To create an account, all you'll need to do is go here to account, and you can go down to login. If you don't have an account yet, you can choose sign up. If you already have an account like I do, I'm just going to go ahead and choose my Mylio account and log in. There we go. And you'll see I have my account management up. And from here, I can quickly download Mylio Photos up here at the top as well. And that's just going to send the application download to your computer, to your downloads folder, so you can install it on your computer. And this is for Windows and Mac platforms. If you're on Android or iOS, you'll want to go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. and download Mylio Photos from there. But for right now, I really recommend, for the best experience, getting started for the first time on a computer. So once you download the program, you're going to want to go ahead and look in your downloads folder for the Mylio X64 MSIX if you're on Windows, or the Mylio.dmg if you're on Mac. Double click that file and then walk through the instructions on screen to install the software. And then once it's installed, you can go ahead and launch. And then you're going to be ready to set up your first device. So let me jump over to Mylio Photos and we'll walk through this process together. So you're going to be greeted with a few screens that give you an idea of what Mylio Photos is doing and how it works. I'm going to click through these fairly quickly, but I encourage you to read them closely when you're getting started. I'm going to go ahead and log in with that same account that I used a few moments ago to sign in on the website. There we go. And it's going to ask me a few questions about my photos, where my images live, and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and click through until we have to make a decision. And like I said, I really do encourage you to read these. These are pretty important. But here's the first question: choosing your Mylio library folder. I'm going to jump back to the presentation here for a second, and we're going to talk about the Mylio library folder. So at its core, the thing you need to know about that folder is it's the default location for your future imports. This doesn't mean that's where everything is actually going to go. You can change that when you import, and you can tell an import to go to specific locations at any time, but this is the default. And the next question you're going to have to answer is, where should this folder be located? So what we recommend is to choose a location that has plenty of storage space. For most people, that's going to be an external hard drive or a desktop computer that has a lot of storage. You can choose other locations, but those are the best ones. For most people, that you're going to want to choose a new folder on that device. The only time I would say to choose an existing folder with media is if you have everything organized exactly the way you want it. The one caveat to doing this is if you have a very large library and you choose a top level folder for photos and you have, 100,000, 200,000 photos in there, the import's going to take a long time. So that's something to pay attention to. You can always choose a new folder and then link those existing folders later and bring things in bit by bit. For most people, like I said, choosing that new folder is going to be the best way to go and give you the most pleasant importing experience. So let's jump back over here to Mylio, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to click forward, and I want to change the location. So like I mentioned, an external hard drive or a desktop computer with lots of storage is the best. So I'm going to choose a brand new hard drive that I got and choose folder location. And I'm going to go here to new hard drive. And I named it that because that's just easy to remember. And I'm going to choose a new folder, and we're going to call this Mylio. And you can call it whatever you want. This is just what I'm calling it. And click create and choose open. So now my Mylio library folder is going to be under the new hard drive in a folder called Mylio. You choose looks good, and it's going to set up Mylio Photos for you with that as your folder. And choose got it. If you choose a new folder and you haven't added a folder with images, the first thing you're going to be asked is if you want to install the sample library. This is completely optional, but it's a great way to see what an organized library looks like. Poke around a little bit with no commitment, and then later on you can add your own photos. I like to add the sample library because it's really easy to add and it's even easier to remove. So let's go ahead and choose install sample library. And this brings some pictures in, so we have a little bit to explore. There we go. You can see that the pictures from the sample library are all coming in. We've got a few blue boxes that pop up. Again, I do encourage you to read these. I'm just going to click through them very quickly so we can jump in and start having fun. Once you have some pictures in your library, the first place I recommend that you go is to the calendar. And what this does is it shows you all of your pictures on a calendar view. And it's a great way to browse your life and photos. So I can go ahead and scroll back and see all of these images with the best pictures from my life, which is really incredible. And if you go farther back, you can start seeing that there's scanned photos that have been added. And you can even go all the way back up to the top and go back. We even have this undated category. So if you choose a picture and you know it was a scanned photo, you don't know when it was taken, you can always mark it as undated, so it's not cluttering up other parts of the calendar. And then you can always go back later and add information as you have it. This is a really fun place to start and just browse. Once you have this open, to navigate, what you're going to do is double click on a year. This brings you to our year view where you can see everything in months. And then you can click into a specific month and onto specific days to see all of the images from that particular day. And what this does is it's drawing from every folder that you've brought into Mylio Photos. These aren't all in just one place. This is pulling from your entire universal library from all of your different sources so you can see all of your images in one place. If you're the kind of photographer who goes out and does, let's say, some really beautiful landscape sunset shoots, and you've got your big camera on the tripod, you're doing your long exposures, and while you're doing that, maybe you have your cell phone out and you're taking a few behind the scenes shots, this is going to put them all into one place so you can see those behind the scenes and your big camera shots all in one view. It's super fun. The next place you're going to want to check out is the people view. And this allows you to tag the people that are important to you. So as you're going through and bringing in images, Mylio Photos is scanning faces and scanning to find faces so you can identify them later. And once it's identified faces, they're going to end up here in this untagged category. If I double click on that, I can go through and start individually tagging some of these people. If I know who they are, I can type in a name. I think that's Carol. There we go. And I can just go ahead and tag Carol, and that's done. Now, if you don't want to go one by one, you can always select multiple images if they're the same person. Or what you can do is go up to our batch tagging, and this automatically groups together similar faces and lets you decide if you want to name all of these people. I'm pretty sure these are all Colleen. So up here at the top, I can go ahead and just type in Colleen, and that's going to automatically tag all of these images. I think these are all Michael. So I'm going to go ahead and type in Michael. And there we go. Now I can have tagged all of those images, and I can go through and tag multiple images at once. And the more images you tag, the smarter Mylio Photos becomes and does a better job at grouping those things together. I have to tell you that going through the faces kind of becomes like a game for me. And I've gotten my library down to where I have only about 100 untagged photos out of, well over 100,000 photos. And it started out as many, many, many more, many thousands of photos that had faces. And I've worked that down to a few where I still need to do a little bit of research because there's some group photos that I've scanned in that had my grandmother in them as a young girl. And I think I know which one she is in the picture, but I need to ask her or my mom to be sure so I can get her tagged properly. And then I can ignore the rest of the faces. So if you get to a group image that has a bunch of faces and you only want to tag one, let's go ahead and grab one of these here. We've got a couple of people in this image. If I decide, yes, I want to have Rich tagged, but I don't want to tag this face, I can just go down to the bottom here in the info panel and choose ignore untagged faces. And this is just a lot of fun to get in there and get to know Mylio Photos and explore your pictures, because that's really why we're here, is we want to enjoy the photographs that we have. I also encourage you to check out the search tool where you can just type in a text search. So if you have something that you've keyworded, you can add that keyword here. So I'm pretty sure we have some underwater photos in this library. So there's none in people, but there are a few here under all photos. So I'm going to close this blue box and switch to all photos. And there we have some photos that we've tagged with the keyword underwater. So there's lots of different ways that you can explore and get to the photos that you want. I'm going to X out of there for now. And let's add some of our own photos. So this is the sample library, and it's great to explore, but you're going to eventually want to add in your own photos. So I'm going to leave it here for now, but when you're ready to remove that sample library, all you have to do is go up to the help menu up here in the upper right and choose remove sample library. It really is that easy. It does not leave any trace of those photos in your library. All of the metadata, all the keywords, everything is gone. So that way you can focus on your own images and building up your own library. So let's add some images of our own. I'm going to go up to the plus button here in the upper right, and I want to add some photos from an external hard drive that I have plugged into my computer. I'm going to choose add media accessible from this device and go to the My Photos drive. I have a folder with a bunch of images called My Amazing Photos, and I'll choose open. And then you have some options here. You can link them, copy, or move. For most things, you're probably going to want to link them. But if you're looking to clean up your computer and get everything into one space, let's say that hard drive, that new hard drive that we added at the very beginning, you want to move everything into that spot and have it be consolidated and organized on a single drive. You might want to choose move or copy. In this instance, I want to link them because I want to leave them where they are, but I also want to add them to Mylio Photos. So I'm going to choose link them, and it's confirming the location, and I'll choose link now. And it'll take a moment for those to come in. While that's happening, I'm going to switch over to the All Photos view. And you'll notice up here in the upper right, should be things happening here. If there's activity happening with Mylio Photos, you'll notice it here on the activities monitor. And I can also go over to folders, and I'm going to close that up. And you'll notice here's the Mylio folder we created when we first started. Here's our sample library under shared content. And here's the My Photos, My Amazing Photos. So now I can go into that folder and you can see it starting to build the previews and bring in all of those images. If you want to get a closer look at what's happening, you can always switch over to the sync panel and expand devices and activity. And you can see that we have my MacBook Pro, we have the My Photos drive, and we have that external hard drive we added with our Mylio library folder. And here's what's going on with Mylio Photos. So all of these things are coming in, and now we can start working with our own images. You can go into the calendar, see when they were taken. If there are photos of people, you can start tagging them. You can go into the map view and see everywhere you've been on the map. So we can even zoom out and take even a larger look here. And I'm going to just pan this over to the US, and you can see every picture that's been tagged with GPS information in this library is showing on the map. If you want to see all of your photos from all of the sources all in one place, All Photos is the place to do that. Now there's a lot going on here, and it's not terribly well organized. The only organization here is by, you can sort this by date created, by rating, or by name, in ascending or descending, but it's every single photo, video in your library. So there's just a lot here. If I zoom out here, you can see it's just a ton of stuff. So there's other ways you can find things much more easily in Mylio Photos. Typically, when I go into All Photos to find something, it's because I know it was very recent and I can find it at the top of the list. Otherwise, I'm going to search, calendar, people, albums. Albums are like playlists for your photos. So folders represent the actual physical folders on your hard drives, on your devices, and are a representation of your file system. So when you move something in a folder in Mylio Photos, it's actually moving it on your hard drive. If you want to organize things and group them together in different ways, albums are a really great way to do that. And like I said, they're like playlists. You can put a photo into multiple albums. It doesn't duplicate it. It doesn't move it. It's simply an organizational tool to use here in Mylio Photos. A few other areas that you're going to want to pay attention to. I already mentioned the help menu here. And the things that are most important is the how-to guide. This is our user manual where you can go to search for answers and detailed information about just about anything inside the program. Join our community. Troubleshooting will take you to our support forum where a lot of our very active users hang out and they like to answer questions for other users. It's also monitored by our support team. We have some frequently asked questions that we've answered. These are mostly pre-sale questions. So as you're getting to know Mylio Photos and evaluating it to make sure it's a good fit for you, these FAQs might be very helpful. We have our remove sample library and the ability to contact Mylio support. This will put you in touch with an actual human who can help you with technical issues. The rest of these options I would leave alone unless directed otherwise. Show support options on startup and console are advanced features that typically are used for diagnostics when something goes wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. A few other menus that you'll want to be aware of is we have what we call our More menu up here. And this is where you get to your overall Mylio Photos settings. And down here in the bottom left or bottom right, my other right, we have what's called the Actions menu. And this changes depending on what you're looking at. So right now there's only a few options, but if I go in and click on and select an individual image, you can see that it's selected because it has that blue border. And I go down to the Actions menu. There's now a whole bunch of different options that I can work with. And in case you're noticing that this actions menu looks a little bit different than what you're seeing, I'm actually using a beta version of our upcoming release. So you're getting a little sneak preview here of what's to come in the next, hopefully, few weeks. We're in the final stages of testing. So some of the things that you're seeing on my screen might look slightly different than what you're seeing in yours. And that's just because I'm using an early release. So that gives you a quick overview of what's going on in Mylio Photos and how to have some fun as you get started. If you have a really large library, I would recommend bringing in those images in smaller chunks just so you can start working with them. It gives the software a chance to ingest them and get things going, and you can have a little bit more fun that way. If you do a huge chunk at once, just know that Mylio Photos is going to be a bit bogged down. It takes a while for those processes to complete if you're working with, let's say 40, 50,000 photos or more. So just something to be aware of. All right, let me switch back over here to the presentation. I think I got a little bit ahead of myself here. We talked about the sample library. We talked about all of the different places inside the app. One place that I didn't show you is the dashboard. This is an important one as well. So here's the dashboard. This gives you kind of the control center for Mylio Photos. The areas you're going to want to hang out most are going to be actions. Again, you can add files here, find duplicates. This is going to be our deduplication tool. Add devices, tag faces, and you can also keep an eye on your devices and how well they're syncing and make sure everything is working properly. So I've got my different devices here. And if I click on my Mac, I can take a look at some of the stats and information and change some of the advanced settings. Now, if you want to learn more about these advanced settings, I would recommend opening up the manual, doing a search for any of these terms. You're going to find some additional information. And then let us know in the community if you have extra questions. We're always available to help if you need it. All right. So we talked about that. We talked about adding photos. That's the main thing. Once you have your photos in Mylio Photos, you can start adding some other devices. You can add your smartphone, Android or iPhone. You can add tablets. So that can be an iPad, Android tablets, and so forth. And also works on Windows and Mac. So this is a great way if you have kind of a mixed household to where you can bring in things from different platforms and they all play nice with Mylio Photos. So you can see all of those images that you took on your old Windows computer, all the ones that you have on your new Mac, and bring them into one central universal library. All right, so we're going to end with some final resources for education and support and to help you get further on with Mylio Photos. We talked about the in-app help menu. That's a great place to go. There's also a direct link here for the product manual. Inside the product manual, we have a quick start guide, which goes over a lot of what we talked about today in a little bit more depth. So if I went a little too fast through things, please feel free to go to that quick start guide. It's broken up into chapters so you can watch the sections that mean the most to you where you need some help. And then I also recommend joining our community. It's a great place to hang out. You can share photos, ask questions, and I'm there at least a couple of times a day, as well as many people from Mylio Photos team. We pay attention to it closely. We want to make sure you're getting the resources you need. We post articles, how-to articles, inspiration, all kinds of things there. And that's going to be the first place you're going to learn about when that next update is coming out, new technologies we're working on, and so forth. Over in the community, we also have the Mylio Photos Fundamentals course. So that's going to take some of what you learned today and really dive in. It's about a 90-minute course broken up into individual chapters. So again, you don't have to watch it from start to finish. You can go and watch the sections that you want, or you can watch the whole thing. And that's going to give you a much deeper understanding of Mylio Photos. We talked about the FAQs and how to contact support. And if you'd like to go ahead and quickly scan this QR code on the screen, that's going to take you to a page that links to all of these different links. So quick and easy way to get that. But most of this is also available in that in-app help menu as well. All right, so I see we have a few questions here in the Q&A. Let me go ahead and jump over here and read these. So let's see here. So we already addressed Jeff and his Android photos. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that as done. Larry says, I have a minimum of 3 versions of each image, is usually JPEG, downsized JPEG, edited in a raw image. How can I tell which is which? Each is in its own folder on the computer. So a great way to take a look at what file you're looking at is let's go over here to folders. And I have a couple of different versions of this image here. They're both marked as 5 stars, so I don't know what's different. What I can do is open up the info panel. And if you're not seeing this panel on the right, it might be collapsed. So this little double arrow here, you can just click that to expand it and choose info. And then I can take a look at some things about my image. And I'm going to scroll down here, and this is the red Japanese maple edit.jpg. And this is red Japanese maple.jpg. And let's see, let's take a look at a few other things. So I'm not sure what the difference is between these two files. It looks like I just have a duplicate. If you have many duplicates of the same size, you can always use our Find Duplicates tool to go ahead and clean some of those up. But the best place to find information here is in this column. Now, down at the very bottom, there is an option to see all of your metadata, and this is going to show you everything about this image. And you can see that there's a ton of information here. I have a lot of different keywords that I've added, and this way you can go through and just take a look and see what's different between your two images. So I hope that helps you, Larry. All right. How can you get started if you don't have a hard drive big enough to store all of your cloud photos? That is a great question. You're going to want to do that at some point because you're going to have some place for those to go. The thing that Mylio Photos is doing is bringing everything onto devices that you control. So if you're bringing down images that are in the cloud, let's say you're pulling them down from Google or you're pulling them down from Facebook or any other online source, you have to have a place to put them. So I would go ahead and before you get started and get too far into your journey, invest in a hard drive. They're pretty inexpensive these days. I buy mine. I'm not sure where in the world you're located, but Costco is a great resource for me. I also buy on Amazon.com. The Seagate drives are very, very reasonably priced. You can get, I think, a 12 terabyte if you have a massive library, and I mean massive. A 12 terabyte for around $300 to $400. If you need something smaller, they are very, very inexpensive. So you're going to have the best experience if you go ahead and purchase that new hard drive before you get started. Otherwise, you can just bring in as much as your local hard drive will fit. And then you're going to be kind of at a stopping point once your computer starts to get full before you can add more images from your online sources. All right. Let's see here. So if I move that folder to an external hard drive, I can delete the folder on my computer. When you're adding media, so let's go up here to the add media from this device. And I'm just going to choose here from, let's see, let me go up here, my favorites. And let me just grab a random folder here. I'm going to go to documents and let's just choose this Adobe folder. Now, let's say I want to add this. If I want to make room on my internal hard drive, let's say these files are on my internal hard drive, and I want to physically move them to an external hard drive to make room on my computer, I can choose move them, and this is going to take them from the source, move them to my Mylio library folder by default, but you can change that destination and physically move them. That's going to delete them from their original location and move them to a new location. If you'd like to take that a little bit more slowly, you can always choose copy, and this will copy them from the old location to the new location. And then later on, once that copy is complete, you can go back and manually delete those from the original location. So those are your options there. What you can also do is from the folders view, let me go ahead and double click on this and go back to my folders view. If I want to move this folder from my My Photos drive and I want to move it into my Mylio library folder, I can certainly do that. Right click on your folder and choose Move Folder. So I'm going to choose Move to Folder, and then I can choose where I want that folder to go. So let's say I want to move that to my new hard drive into my Mylio folder. I can choose Open, and that's going to physically move that folder from one hard drive to the other. All right. So I hope you're able to figure this all out. I hope this was helpful. Sounds good. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and mark that one as done. And Mark, this is for the end of the session, or not even this session, but I can't find any community or forum regarding non-destructive editing and third-party tools. Can we have a session similar to what you did with Vanelli? Otherwise, Yes. You know what, Mark? Let's go ahead. I'm going to put that in the queue. We'll probably try to do that later this year or possibly very early next. We've got a lot of great sessions already scheduled and planned, but I will try to fit that in there for you because I know the external editing is really important for a lot of people, including myself. It's a topic that I really love working with. So I will add that to the coffee break queue. For those of you who aren't aware, we also hold weekly live events, and they're a little bit more informal than this. They're Zoom meetings instead of webinars. So everybody, if you want to, you can have your camera on, you can unmute, ask questions. We cover a brief topic, and there's lots of time for Q&A. So we'll go ahead and do one of those coffee break sessions on external editing. I think that would be a lot of fun. All right. So I think that's about it. Any other questions? Anybody has any questions, go ahead and pop those into the chat or the Q&A. But I think we pretty much covered everything for today. I hope this was helpful for you and that you enjoyed the session. One final thought I would like to send you away with is that this is a big program and there is a steep learning curve. Don't get discouraged. Play with it a little at a time and make use of the tools that make sense to you. There are a lot of different tools and a lot of different ways to organize. And I don't know anybody who uses absolutely all of them. If albums make the most sense for you, use albums. If you love keywords, use keywords. If you want to add GPS information to all of your pictures and see them on the map, go for it. But don't feel like you have to do every single one of those. Each one of us thinks through how we find our photos a little bit differently, and you'll want to make use of those tools that fit how your mind works. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Getting Started webinar. So until then, have a great day. Bye-bye.